Tomorrow is a big day. Everybody is imagining how tomorrow will be like. Tomorrow there's a protest that's supposed to go around Nigeria to fight against hunger and hardship. You know, we've had throughout history peaceful demonstrations, radical uprisings. Protests have actually played a very pivotal role in shaping the course of human history, and it's also been a driving force for social change. At least that's what many people say. And on that note, we'll be talking about protest, a tool for social change. Protest, a tool for social change is our topic today. I have two people that will be with me on the show. I have one right here with me. Agoloki. He's been on Flipside quite a number of times. We've seen him on different grounds. I've had him here when he was a speaker of Edo Youth Parliament. I've had him here from the Red Cross. So he's a jack of all trades. He's a youth rights activist, and I'm just so glad to have you on the show, Mr. Ago, today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Welcome.
Thank
How's the family?
you. Fine.
All right, then I have another person who's going to be joining us via Zoom. She's currently at work, so she will not be able to join us live. So she'll be joining us on Zoom. We're trying to establish contact with Margaret Isaac, so we'll also introduce her once we get that right. But we're going to go right into our discussion today. We're talking about protest, a tool for social change. Let's start with the proposed protest for tomorrow. In your own opinion, do you think this protest will hold? Because we always keep planning for protests. It doesn't seem like it ever comes to see the light of day. And do you even think Nigerians are motivated to be a part of this protest?
Okay. Personally, I feel Nigerians are tired,
Yeah.
and with so many factors and so many issues going on, and even when you check your social media, you find out that the social media space has been heated so high that the protest for tomorrow is almost inevitable. However, on my own personal opinion, I feel that the protest may likely hold. But again, today all through the town, we saw, I think, show of power where we saw military men moving around the streets and even the policemen. Anyway, there's nothing wrong being to protest because protest is also a tool for social change. However, I condemn protests that are violent. So why tomorrow people go to protest, they should do it with all manner of zeal, not to be hijacked by the hoodlums and those persons who will take advantage to perpetrate evil. So I support non-violent
Protest. Right, but so far, protest is not something we haven't seen in Nigeria. We keep hearing protests, we keep seeing protests. But how effective do you really think this whole protesting, going to the streets are in so far?
Okay, when we go back to history and memory lane, we find out that Nigeria as a country has been shaped by various protests. We go back to issue of the Aba women riots. We know what happened. Even the most recent, the NSAS, and I believe to a very large extent that what the people agitated for to a very large extent was achieved. So I feel it has helped to shape things as well over time. So history has been a part of Nigeria. Protests have been a part of Nigeria history, and it has also helped to shape our nation and even our economy as well.
Okay. All right. I think we've been able to reach Margaret Isaac. Is Margaret with us now? Margaret, can you hear me? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, I can hear you.
All right. I know you're at work. We had to pull you down for this. We're talking about protests as a tool for social change. How prepared are you for tomorrow's protest?
Well, I would not be joining tomorrow's protests.
But are you going? Will you be going to work?
No, ma. Actually, we are giving tomorrow off because of security reasons.
Okay. All right. I think I'm going to start calling you ma'am as well. This is all you're calling me ma'am. All right, we're talking about protests, and I know you recently just finished from University of Benin. Congratulations on your graduation and your very
Thank you, ma'am.
amazing results. Recently, the University of Benin students also went on a protest, and that one was supposed to be really loud, but the school management shut it down almost immediately. They protested the first 2 days. By the third day, the school shut down and said everybody go home. So if you were going to come back and protest, you're on your own. In as much as you're not still in the University of Benin, what do you think about that protest, and how effective do you think it was, and what's your personal opinion on the management's reaction towards it?
For me, I believe that the protest was very much needed. This lights issue in school did not start this past semester that they, had to stop. It had been on for a very long time. It just students had just been managing. For a person that actually stayed in the hostel for a bit of my years in school, I can say for a fact that even when there's water and lights, the hostel is still very dirty and not very manageable. Talk less of when you are giving them 1 hour in a day to charge your phone, to fetch water. It was just a whole thing. And I guess the students just had to cry out because that was really the only way the management would do something about it. Because I know for a fact that shutting down the school was to protect perhaps the school amenities from being destroyed. Because protest, we know that sometimes it can get out of hand. All right, but I'm pretty sure that the management they've been able to now do something about it because I'm hearing that school will resume very soon, and there's no way you'll bring students back to school if they've not fixed the light situation. So inevitably, like I feel like the protest that the students carried out at main gate that day was very helpful for their sake.
All right, wonderful. Well, still talking about, and before we go back to the protest proper for tomorrow, what are this basic amenities thing? I also went to University of Benin coincidentally, and Mr. Ago also went to University of Benin, so we are all alumni of Uniben. But what are the basic amenities you would expect to see in a government universities, and for if you have friends who go to private universities, have you noticed any change in there or difference in the amenities between the school you finished from, which is a government school, and other private institutions?
Um, Basic things, or I think basic things that students really would need as a past or ex-student is water and light. Once you have lights and you have water, you have light to read, to charge, to keep your things running. You have water to clean, to bathe, and just wash your clothes. Those two things are like very essential. And so if you take those two things from the equation, you're basically making life unbearable for whomever is going to be in that environment. And of course, comparing it to the private institutions, definitely in private schools, the hostels are way better because you have like you're not a lot of students, first of all, so you don't have a lot of people to make the place, dirty and all that. And I guess, or I'm not even guessing, I'm pretty sure that the level of maintenance in private institutions is a lot better than in governmental institutions. That is, I'm definitely sure of that one.
Okay. All right. Now, Mr. Ago, let's come back to you. The protests, if indeed, we'll try to find out if they really put these things in place. If indeed they did, then the protest was quite effective. So we are hoping tomorrow's Zoom will also yield positive results. The protest hasn't started, but we're hearing now that government is selling a bag of rice for as little as 40,000 naira for a 50 kg bag of rice. I don't know where the rice came from, but we're already seeing results, I guess. I hope it will last. It will be a lasting result. Now, what are some of the limitations or and potential drawbacks that could actually happen to derail a protest and make it become ineffective?
Okay, we still go back to previous protests. What has previous protests looked like? That is one of the major factors that that will make us to ascertain if tomorrow process is going to be
A
a
success in
success.
it.
Because in the previous, we heard of incidents of people being shot, killed during protests. We also had incidents of people being dehumanized, brutality by either the government or the armed forces or the police, anyhow it goes, the history. Then secondly, if as of today the government comes online and brief every Nigerian that, let's say, we are reducing fear, for example. I think many people will see it back at home. So But for tomorrow protest, it's almost at its peak. I don't think that uh, there are so many EDCs that will reduce these persons, with those who have already made up their mind. Those who have already made up their mind. But the fear of the past is one of the major things that can drop the participation of people in the protest tomorrow. And I also see, like I said before, I also saw the military around town today uh, moving around to show their awareness. So those persons who have negative intention regards protest, you also sit back. You understand? You also sit back to know that tomorrow is not going to be as usual for them. We, like what we saw in NSAS, it was not a case of people vandalizing government properties, a case of people going for robbery and all of those things. So many things went wrong. So when you have these policemen who are to protest tomorrow with them, even those who have a hidden agenda will know that yes, it's not business as usual for them. Okay. So that will also help.
Now, our topic is protest a tool for social change, and we're using two protests basically as a case study. The proposed August 1 to 10 protest and the just recently concluded protest of the University of Benin. We're using both as a case study. Margaret, if you're still there with us, let's talk about protests in general and what would you suggest? What strategies would you employ to ensure that protest remains peaceful and non-violent? Because when it's a protest, then it has to be peaceful. By the time violence has joined it, that's already tilting towards a riot. So what would you advise to ensure that protest, whether it's the past one, the next one, this one we're about to have, stays peaceful so that we don't get derailed?
Okay.
Okay, she's here. She's here. Thank God. All right, go ahead.
Well, first off, the governmental organizations like the police force, those in power, basically, they have to relax and let citizens actually exercise their rights to protest. Because it's actually something that I think citizens have, we have a voice, and if perhaps the citizens of a particular nation decides that they want to come out and have a peaceful protest to share their views about something, I think the government should let them. Because most of the time, especially from the NSAS protest that we had not too long ago, basically what I feel always starts violence is when certain people are sent with certain agendas just to create a bit of rifts and rivalry within the peaceful protest. I mean, in as much as we want to pray that the protest is peaceful and there are no injuries and there is nothing happening, if people are not sent intentionally into these gatherings to create a means of a kind of crisis or chaos, then the process would actually be peaceful. So I'm actually hoping that the governments and people in power, or just those people that have the means to send people into gatherings, I really hope that they will sit back, relax, and allow the citizens of Nigeria to actually come out peacefully within these next few days that we're going to have, and just like exercise their franchise, not like franchise per se, but let them speak.
Right.
That's just what I can say.
Okay. So, because we have already made some promises to some students that we need to talk about their plights, let's just handle the last protest from the University of Benin before we talk some more about this. Government universities, we had so many graduates. In fact, they still have the biggest population of people coming out from school. But you, as a graduate, someone who's gone through a government university, did you have any health complication from the usage of the basic amenities in the school when you were there?
Personally, I did not face any of that personally, but I had friends who could not even access the health facility. I'm not just a graduate of University of Benin alone. I've been to College of Education before now, so I'll speak from both ends. There are times that even the health center, many persons will not even want to go there because when you go there, they give you drugs that are not even effective. Sometimes you may not even get drugs there. So it's better you go outside the campus to get drugs for yourself. So it's a problem for them. So especially those persons who have life-threatening challenges, conditions, those who are asthmatic, epileptic, who need urgent drugs or whatever to sustain themselves, it was a big problem for them because I really had some classmates who passed through that stress. And unfortunately, while I was in 100 level, I lost a student due to these poor health facility in the school as at then. I will not be specific which of the school. So
Yeah.
as at then.
Interesting. All right, Margaret, some people came out during that protest that the lack of basic amenities was the reason why they were protesting. It's affecting their overall performance, academic performance. I know on good authority you came out with a first class. So how much of a relationship does having steady light, good water, good beds, security, how much of a relationship does it have with good performance academically?
That it goes hand in hand. You're not going to be able to read without light. And I remember having to use rechargeable lamp, sometimes my phone touch in those times where I was in school and there was no light. That you can actually imagine having to use very dim lights to read just so you don't fail. And people like me now that already have like eye issues, you're actually struggling because you don't have a choice. You have to read and there's no light. And then that water issue was just out of it. Every exam period, for whatever reason, there's always no water in the hostel. Because I stayed in the hostel from 100 to 200 level. I had to leave and go off campus, just like our other speaker said, because honestly, I could not bear the lack of basic amenities. The lack of water, you can't bathe, you can't wash your clothes, you can't do anything. Imagine you having to use like 2 sachets of water to bathe. I did that in school. I actually had to learn how to use 2 sachets of water to bathe. And then you are even a lady. Stuff like that. It actually discourages educational activities because you can't go to class. You can't go to class when you don't have your bath. You can't go to class when you don't have clothes to wear. You can't even read properly. So how exactly do they expect to produce good results when they are not even providing basic things like water, light, and health facilities? Those three things, water, light, and health facilities. If you can't provide those three things, there's really no need to even have an institution. Because what are we come to come and do there? That's all.
Okay. I know you have to go back to work, but what are some innovative solutions? Because we need this situation to be dealt with. I was in the receiving end of that protest. I live at this end of town where you must pass through the main gate to get down. Every now and again, the students are protesting and they block the roads. It's difficult for pedestrians. Cars are on standstill. We just suffer a lot. So we don't want them to come back and protest about this when we're done dealing with the protest for hunger. We don't want to. We heard they're coming back soon. So what are some innovative solutions that you would suggest that for addressing these amenities related challenges, like how can government and the university work hand in hand to address them, or individuals, NGOs, whatever? What suggestions would you give so that we don't have to go through this suffering again?
Well, first of all, I would advise that those people in the place of authority to put these things in place, they actually start caring about students. Because if you think of your child in a situation where there's no light, water, and just basic health facilities, in an environment where you sent them to study, I believe that you would intentionally, without anybody having to push you or having to come out for a protest to achieve it, you personally, you would want to do it. I think they actually need to start feeling for the students first before anything can even change. But basically, I don't think it should be a hard thing to achieve in providing light to schools. I know areas in Benin here where there are 24 hours lights just because a government official is living there. So I don't see any reason why in a school that has students from all around Nigeria coming together to study, to live together, that the country cannot or the government cannot come together to provide these basic things. Because once there's light, there's water. So water is already settled once there's light. You can pump once there's light. All right. And then the health facilities, I really I don't know what to say about that one because that one is on God. But I really just hope that they can start to feel for the students. You can feel for them, perhaps things will change.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Margaret. We'll let you go now, and we can see you with your uniform. She's actually a first class graduate of mechanical engineering. She is currently working as a mechanic yeah, in one of the shops in Benin, and I just had to pull out this morning and say, okay, you join us to talk about this. We're talking about protest, and one just passed, and children are still at home because of the protest. So let's hear a student's perspective of that while we are preparing for another, because we don't want to just end the second protest and then we're back to the streets being blocked in just a short time. All right. What Sago, let me come back to you now. All right, how can we evaluate the success of a protest and say, okay, this protest was indeed a successful one?
Okay, before we evaluate the sources of any protest, we need to have set agenda before we start a protest. And the agenda is being met, so you know that such protest was a success. Now, before you start a protest, there are always build up to it. One of the first things you do for the organizers to meet with even the security personnel to detail themselves, profile themselves about the particular process, about the agitation, and also request the security personnel to also join them so that other person will not take advantage of it. That's one. Then when you are done with that, you also have a point where you convene an area, the routes you are going around through is also listed as part of it. For tomorrow protest, what I've seen on internet, I saw some group of persons, the group organizers who has highlighted some points as their meeting point in various states, which they have said protest will hold. So, if there's an agenda for tomorrow protest, for example, what they are agitating for is 10-point agenda. Don't even see it. It's a 10-point agenda, which includes suffering, hunger, even the answers to also review what has happened, the electoral reforms and others. So when this, let's say 80% is being met, they cannot say, yes, what we've done is enough to say this process has been a good one. So if there is no agenda and people are just doing anything they want to do, you find out that we cannot actually evaluate the success of that protest. So an agenda first, then before we talk about the evaluation, and we now conclude that yes, it was a success and it was not a success. So from this agenda that has been set, let's look at it at the end of it. So we should know.
Okay, we're going to go on a quick break on the show. Protest, a tool for social change. Tomorrow is the first day of August, and it's been proposed that Nigerians should come out and be on the streets to hear their own thoughts and express themselves on how much struggles they're going through because of all of these economic reforms by the present administration, President Tinubu administration, and how it's affecting them and the ways they can move ahead and have a better way of living, and urgent short-term solutions in as much as we're still going to be proposing a long-term goals. We're talking about fuel scarcity already. We're having issues of dealing with the costs of the fuel. So you even have the money to buy the very expensive petrol, but you can't get it to buy because there's scarcity. I don't even understand what's happening that we even have scarcity as of now. We're talking about the cost of food. Food inflation seems to be rising on a weekly. Now, we've gotten more than 37% increase in terms of food inflation, and so it just goes on and on and on and on. So these are many more we're talking about on the show. Let's talk about the ways we air our opinions and agitations and anger. There's always a protest in Nigeria. We're always protesting against something. When the youth are done with this now, we could have the elderly coming to the streets to talk about pension. When we're done dealing with that, you see market women come talk about. The next thing is tipper drivers. You know, we're always on the streets. But is that the best way to deal with government's shortcomings? Must we go to the streets? Are there other more effective ways you would suggest?
Okay, there are other ways protests can be done. However, I think that because going to the streets to demonstrate and also cause some restriction for other persons, It's one of the ways that our government have always seems to listen to us.
Huh.
I think that is the reason why many person or group have decided to keep using that approach. We can also think of protesting even through sit-in. People decide to sit at home, not doing anything affiliated to what they were asked to do, sit in their various house, just to protest on issues which is on ground. People can also decide to go on, we're in a digital era, and you can also begin to make short videos about your displeasure and send even without causing issues for anybody or even those around you. And I believe our government will listen to us or they will hear us. We've seen so many times, even a case whereby issues get to the social media page and government will have to go back and say this is what we've done before is actually not right and we have to look into it again. It's also a good way. Then putting up a letter as an individual, stating your demand as a group is also a good way to also demonstrate your displeasure over what is happening. Uh, these and so many approaches can be looked into in a way of protesting the agenda of what you really want. So you can sit in, can do a short video, you can do a message, write, can even engage in newspaper, you can go to the media to show your displeasure. These are many other ways we can actually use.
I think a lot of parents would rather the sit-ins or the boycotting because we don't have to come to the street and hear that somebody was shot or something. Well, the sit-ins is one of the ways that they've been expressing frustration in the East about the Nnamdi Kanu's continued detainments. And every Monday they do the all sit-in way to express themselves. And still, Nnamdi has not been released. It as well. Okay, so let's talk about sustaining protest over time. There are very few times where I've seen people protesting come to the streets and within a week or two, the requests that they are pushing forward are met. It takes a long time. But humans naturally do not have staying power when it comes to pushing for something. So how would you, or should I say, what strategies would you suggest to sustain protest to achieve its long-term goal over time? If you're not achieving it in a, let's say this protest in another 10 days, everybody will relax. So after 10 days, you're not seeing the 70% that you said makes it a success as a result. You're not seeing anything yet. Should they continue protesting? And if they will, how will they ensure that people still keep with the same momentum supporting the protest?
Okay, we had a case of the NSACs. I would think I'll use that as an
Case study.
case study here. In the NSAS protests, we found out that there were people who were actually supporting the protest. When I mean supporting the protest, I mean even those who were participating were being caring for other participants, other protesters. Um, food, drinks were things that people could buy for themselves, they also buy for their neighbors or person protesting with them. Resilience is also another tool. People have to bring in this resilience, this trying to say yes until we achieve what we want, we are not living. Is also a good way. That is the most effective aspect of it. And people are resilient and determined on what they want. No matter what is happening. We find out that even in Edo, that people were sleeping in main gates for days. They were there, nobody living because of this resilience, because they really know what they wanted. But the process was a bit hijacked by rulers. So that is one area. Then again, there should be people who can also support them with even drinks, water. Those who cannot go out to protest can also think of ways of buying water for those persons on the streets. It can also assist them. Remember, we are looking at protests, not riots here.
Yes.
So it's a different thing. So when you, for example, your ideology, your value align with what the people are protesting for, and you are unable to go out, you can also send a message of, okay, use this to buy water, use this, and then believe that people who have that will also see it. Then again, after the whole protest, and people also give the government a chance to go back home to think and also go back to the drawing board. I believe it's also on the part of the government to also call some of these persons to say, okay, what were your demands? What was entailed in your letter? Let's sit down together and have this equilibrium. Let's have, okay, you are telling us, for example, to say the cost of a bag of rice is 40,000 as of today, as far that's what the government is telling us, but we know that in reality it's not so as of today. Okay, in an equilibrium, the people can say, okay, a bag of rice can be sold for 15,000. The government is telling you, no, 40,000, but there should be a balance to say, okay, we can actually leave it at this point. That will also help people to sustain what they are doing. So after protesting on the streets, we can also go back to the drawing board to have this point of equilibrium whereby you strike balance between both parties, the government and those persons that are protesting. I think by this way, people will even carry out a protest in a more civilized manner, even without hurting a fly. I think so.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about government's reaction to this proposed protest. In Edo State, our governor has said security will be provided, and we already seen that. There are security operatives on the streets already doing surveillance and just checking to make sure everything is in place. But in the places like the north, we saw on the news the northern governors, some northern governors under the Northern Governors Forum, saying they are not a part of this protest. They are withdrawing, which invariably means they might not provide security to protect the protesters. That's not to say they will not protect government properties, but they might not protect the protesters. Then even in the FCT Minister Wike was on the news almost all through last week. He was trending on social media where he was going from district to district. I particularly watched the one in Gwagwalada where he was telling the youths not to come outside. The Iyaloja in Lagos, the one Tinubu, Mrs. Tinubu, she came out too and told people not to come out to protest. Yeah. So, what would you make of government's reaction already towards the protest?
Okay. Personally, I would say this. The government should not be more of reacting, should be pro. Before now, what are the issues? What should we have done? Should not get to this point of people are now going to the street to protest. But that is where we find ourselves now. But so far, I don't feel the government has done terribly bad. It's the right of the government to provide security for protesters. If that is done, we'll give them kudos. Again, if the government, like I said before, when this rumor of protest has started on, the government have called the organizers out. This is not like NSA that do not have faces. This one they have faces because you know of some organizations who are coming out, the organizers coming out to say this where is going to meet point and all those things. And we called a round table. And we see the effect of this discussion in our economy. I think people will be okay. So the truth is, people are tired of government promising us without actions. We are tired of words without actions. So how wish the government have said, okay, this is what we are doing, this is what we are putting in place, and they are actually doing it at that point in time. You find out that people will not even go out tomorrow. For example, if we have a case of a standard of living, and we have this electricity tariff, let's say it has been removed by now, or probably the issue of the electricity, or the fear and whatever, and the presidency will just pronounce today or this night and tell us that fuel is now 215 naira. I believe many people see that too. You understand? Just as the way he did it when he just entered the position. So instead of reacting, the government should be more proactive. You understand? So what they've done, security is actually one of the best things they've done for us. By tomorrow, we hope that people will go out there to protest and come back home being protected by the security. But another challenge that I'm having in this protest is protest being politicalized. Protest being politicalized. I am afraid that many political actors, they want to use this opportunity to play their undertow political sound. You understand? So if these protests do not have political undertow, it's also going to be a very good one for our people. That means Nigeria at large. I'm not protesting tomorrow because, personally, I'm not protesting tomorrow because I have a job I'm going through. So I do not have a green flag to tell me that, a red flag to tell me there will be no work tomorrow. But as of today, I'll be going to work. As of tomorrow, I'll be going to work to do my duty. Understand? So personally, till tomorrow, I'm not going anywhere.
There's the day after tomorrow,
Yes.
and the day after that.
The day after that.
Okay, so what are the implications of the youth's protests for Nigeria's democratic development and stability?
Okay, I believe because our arms of government have faulted to some extent, this check and balances is no longer there. I believe because of that, the protests have become a tool for Nigeria to checkmate their government, for Nigerians to checkmate their government. So I think that is one of the major reasons why protests has become inevitable in our societies. So on that, when our youths have the opportunity to express themselves, they want to go to the streets, they want to put in the writings, they want to make short videos of themselves to get to those who are in authority. So it's a tool for them to checkmate the government, to bring the government to their toes, to let the government know that this is how we are feeling. So that's his own perspective.
All right, so we're going to go on a quick break now. We usually have a segment on the show where we do something that targets our health, totally different from the topic we're treating, just maybe a fruit, water, anything, but on how you can use it to boost your health. So we'll push play to a short documentary, I think, on banana, or I don't know, but I'm suspecting it's going to be banana. And when we'll come back, we'll be concluding on the show.
Healthy food isn't always tasty, but with regards to bananas, this isn't the case, which is why it's doubly pleasing to learn that they not only bring satisfaction to your taste bud, but also a great many benefits to your health. We'll be looking at why eating just 2 bananas a day can seriously improve your health. Bananas reduce high blood pressure thanks to the fact that they contain around 420 milligrams of potassium. Bananas are rich in fiber, which makes you no longer want to eat once consumed. Bananas also contain a kind of starch that reduces your appetite and stops you gaining weight. It reduces the level of sugar in your blood and raises your body's sensitivity to insulin. If your body's cells are sensitive to insulin, they can't absorb glucose, and your pancreas begins to produce it in a larger quantity. Whether the body accumulates fat depends on the insulin present. Anemia causes tiredness and breathlessness. It's the result of a reduction in red blood cells and a low level of hemoglobin in the body. Bananas contain a lot of iron, which stimulates the production of red blood cells. Bananas also contain vitamin B6, which regulates blood glucose level, helping people with anemia. Bananas are easily digested and do not irritate the gastrointestinal tract. Resistant starch contained in bananas is not digested and ends up in the large intestine, where it serves as an effective nutritional medium for healthy bacteria. Bananas can be eaten when a person has gastritis and heartburn, and they restore the minerals lost when a person suffers from diarrhea. They contain tryptophan, which is required by our bodies in order to receive serotonin, the happiness hormone. On average, each banana contains around 27 milligrams of magnesium. This mineral is responsible for producing a good mood and healthy sleep. Bananas are rich in vitamin B6. On average, one banana contains around 20% of our daily requirement of vitamin B6. This helps your body produce insulin, hemoglobin, and amino acid. They are needed for the creation of healthy cells. Although we usually think that oranges and strawberries contain the greatest amount of vitamin C, bananas actually contain 15% of our daily norm of this important substance. Vitamin C is an important antioxidant. It also helps keep blood vessels healthy and produces collagen. The potassium content in bananas protects your muscles from cramp, while the carbohydrates provides you with enough energy to endure a heavy workout.
But we've been having so many protests in very short period, in quick successions. One is ending, another is coming, and these things are widely broadcasted. They're everywhere in the world. The world is a digital village. So, Ms. Lucky, what do you think about these continuous agitations that we're having and the kind of reputation we're building in the international scene?
Okay, is a reflection of the Nigerian society. And it's not actually bad for people to know how our system is. If our system is working, people will also see it, and people will also emulate it, make reference to it. At this point in time, it happens that protests have become a good tool for Nigeria to speak out, to say what they want. So when those persons who are not in Nigeria see this, they know that this is what these people deserve. So if our government was we are up to date, doing what they ought to have done, I think all of these things. So it's good for those persons, for other countries to know that, yes, this is what is happening in Nigeria. This is what we are passing through. We are going through a lot. In fact, we are in a lot. We are not passing through again. We are in a lot. So let them know that this is our current state. So it also helps, again, for international organizations to also know the kind of funding that comes into Nigeria. For example, we are talking about hunger. There are organizations that do fund hunger in Nigeria. We can also have, there were times that Nigerians were being irregular migration was so persistent in Edo State. Organization came in and started funding, assisting people. So let's say we are talking about suffering now. We also wish to see organization coming to Nigeria to also train our young person on skills, also grant funds for them to also go trading. Amongst all, goes to those persons who actually deserve it. So it's also help us to improve in our economy. Those who have organizations that can, international organizations that can actually come to our aid, it can also come in to assist us. So it's good for people, other organizations, to know what is happening in Nigeria, to also reflect, help us to reflect on it and provide solution if they also have solution for us.
And for those who have been sending money to fight hunger and to deal with unemployment, they also know how their monies are being spent.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
Okay, so there's a school of thought that these series of protests is just too much in recent times. We're tilting towards a civil war. By the time we're gathering like this, the answers became a scare. I know our leaders were scared. It became a situation of Tower of Babel, where these people are speaking one voice. I have to calm down and scatter their language. The people had to come and scatter it. The unity was massive. It was scary. But are you amongst those who have that fear that if the youths keep having such organized gatherings, we could eventually have a war?
Yes, I think so, and I'm on that school of thought. If our youths keep continuing to gather together, we could have a war, but not just a physical war, intellectually engaged with our leaders to let them know. I don't want to tune with what has happened in Kenya. I don't want to go there because it was a protest that resorted to riots, and when we go to Kenya today, when I saw videos, I lamented because so many infrastructure were being destroyed. It's taking them about 10 years back to where they used to be because of these infrastructure that were destroyed. But again, it's going to be a war that we can actually engage our leaders to put them to their tools to know what is happening. And for the aspect of the civil war, Um, I saw something on Twitter, that's the X platform, last night. A particular person saying some Igbo men should return back to the east, and the Yorubas should also return back to Lagos and other states. And that is not good for our democracy.
At all.
That is how civil war starts. Tribalism, ethnicity, when it starts coming in, we are one Nigeria, we need to preach that. But I believe these are Gen Z. We don't know who are Igbos, who are Yorubas, who are Hausa. We associate with ourselves. We are caution of what offends one another. We are good to go with accommodating each other. You see these persons who are front, projecting divisions amongst these persons. They are the one who wants to bring this war to us. So when we are united, the war that could happen is to bring our leaders to their tools to ensure that things are being done appropriately.
Okay, so we're almost done. We're done, actually. So your final words on today's discussion.
Okay, if eventually you are attending the protest tomorrow, I want to say that it's necessary you prepare yourself. Prepare yourself in the sense that you have to go with your water can, you have to go with a shoe that is smart enough for you to walk. At least when you probably if you are moving on the streets, maybe after trekking, walking some distance, you will not feel so hot. And you also have to take an umbrella with you. You know, it's training period now, and it's also going to help. And sometimes it's also good you go with your phone so that you can also make good records of yourself, so that you can also have a story to tell. When I mean a story, when people are saying this is how the protest went, you can also say no, this is how it is. This is how it's
That's not
going.
true.
This is not true. You can also have a counter of it. Then it's also good that you also group yourself as an individual, as a group. You move as a group. Don't go alone. Don't go alone. When I mean don't go alone, when a group is moving towards a particular direction, you shouldn't go elsewhere. You have to be in a group, so that it's
For
difficult.
safety
Yeah,
matters.
for safety measures. So it's good you go in a group. Then lastly, at the end of the protest, for those who are organizing it, it's better they also go with an agenda that will be presented both to the government at all levels. Let them know what you are agitating for. Not just stay on the street to say we want a good living, we want this. It should be written out and also be sent to the appropriate channels, so that they also have to look into it.
All right.
So I also hope that the government on their part, we also see these persons as people who desire change in their environment, not people who want violence. So,
Thank you, Mr. Ago, for your time. Thank you, Margaret Isaac, for your time as well. Thank you, viewers, for watching. Tomorrow is going to be a long day. We're waiting, we're willing to observe. We're going to be at work to be giving you situation reports as it breaks. And I hope you all be safe and be very careful out there. It is people who are alive that can actually fight for change. So secure yourself, don't lose guard, or they can steal your phones, so protect your things. I'll be back again next week Wednesday at exactly 1:30 with another interesting social topic on the program Flipside. Have a great day.